Hey guys, I'm super excited to tell you about the pasture raised turkey sticks from Paleo Valley that I've been eating lately. These things are so good. But yes, the flavor is off the chain and you're going to love them. But what's really cool is that they're from 100% pasture raised turkey. That is hard to find. This means turkeys that actually live on pasture and they're never given hormones, they're never given antibiotics. Plus, they're using the old world method of fermenting these sticks so they're shelf stable without any chemicals or crappy ingredients. Plus, they're full of probiotics because of that fermentation process, right? So, really, really cool. It's a healthy snack on the go. My kids love them. I pack them in their lunches. They're autoimmune paleo approved. They're a great source of vitamins E, C, and D, protein, omega 3, and omega 6 balance. So, if you're looking for a healthy snack on the go that comes from a really quality source, check out these pasture raised turkey sticks from Paleo Valley, and you can get 15% off with code KICKASSLIFE. So, go visit paleovalley.com, enter KICKASSLIFE at checkout for 15% off and enjoy. Hey guys, I want to tell you about one of my favorite new companies, and that is Rep Provisions. So I met these guys at Paleo Effects last year where they were just blowing everyone away with their beef sticks and pecan nut butter combo packs that are outrageously delicious. But as I talked to them, I was even more blown away because I found out what they were about. They are a regenerative agriculture company committed to the future of the planet by the proper management of cattle. So they are regenerating America's grasslands with the management of their cattle. Look into it. It's amazing. They have everything from, of course, high quality grass-fed, grass-finished beef to Mongolisa pork, which is like the Wagyu of pork, to bone broth popsicles, pecan nut butters, like I said, and so many amazing things. Go support them and support the future of our planet. And they're giving you 15% off for being a Kick-Ass Life podcast listener. So use coupon code KICKASSLIFE and get 15% off at repprovisions.com.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a minute here at the top of the show to chat with you about some of our sponsors who are offering incredible discounts for you and your family. We also only align ourselves with companies that we know are providing safe and healthy products, and also products that we actually consume on a regular, if not sometimes daily basis. And one of those companies is Primal Kitchen. Primal Kitchen products are incredible because they are dairy-free, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free with no refined sugar. And they are delicious. So visit primalkitchen.com to check out the vast array of products available and use code KICKASSLIFE for 10% off.
Hey guys, today we're talking about something very near and dear to my heart, and that is regenerative agriculture. If you're following me on Instagram, it's Coach Chair Garrison. You may have seen that I am hosting an event at a regenerative ranch at the end of July. That's at Rep Provisions, our amazing sponsors ranch. We're going to do a tour there. The Savory Institute, which I'll talk about in a minute, the leaders of regenerative agriculture who really started the movement, are going to be there. Alan Savory himself, if you guys ever want to dive into this more after you listen to this episode, Alan Savory is the guy. He's started this way back in the 60s, I believe. He's been working on this for a long time, and he has voted one of the top 50 most intriguing TED Talks of all time was Alan Savory's presentation on regenerative agriculture and how we actually can save the planet using cattle, using animals, sheep, pigs, and so we'll dive into that. Now, here's the thing. Like, I want to give some stats because like when I talk to people about this, I'm like, I'm not trying to be a tree hugger here. I'm not just like an activist that like wants to do something nice for the planet and like that would be cool. I'm like, do you understand that we will not have life as we know it, probably toward the end of our lives, but for sure in our children's lives, if we do not change right now? Now, here's how I see it. We can either, like, Mother Nature's going to take care of it. That's how I see it. Mother Nature's going to take care of it. If things are going catastrophic, I think there will be a huge like death and renewal cycle because that's just how I see nature works. But I do think that we are like given these divine inspirations, and it's just like following your intuition. You know how like if you keep ignoring your intuition, life just starts getting harder and harder and worse and worse and worse. But if you just start listening to it, it just turns into freaking amazingness and awesomeness. That's how I see what's happening right now on the planet. There's a ton of people getting all these downloads and these heart connections to helping with this, what we're about to talk about. And I'm like, we can either listen to it and have it the easy way, or we can ignore it and have it the hard way. So here's some stats. We are losing 75 billion tons of topsoil I'm going to say that number again, 75 billion tons of topsoil every year because of the way that we are doing farming and ranching in the last, like, not even 100 years. So this is a new thing. This is a new problem, and it's really bad. So why is that happening? We're having all this erosion, the way they're leaving these crops just completely open. You know, when you drive, I'm actually driving today out across Wyoming and Montana, and I know I'm going to see it. I'm going to see all these open crops of dirt just sitting there, and it's blowing into the waterways and into the oceans, and we lose it. Eric from Rep Provisions puts it this way: we're a tiny rock, a big giant rock. We're a big giant rock spinning in space with a teeny tiny layer of topsoil and subsoil that supports all life on the planet. Now, sure, if you're in the Bezos crowd, I'm not against like Elon and all this stuff, but if you're thinking we're just gonna go to Mars, like, I don't know if you guys realize like what's
Like, why
going
aren't they
on.
spending the money on?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys realize what's going on in the scenes, but behind the scenes, but people who know what's going on, they see the trajectory that we're on with the planet. And so why do you think they're so motivated to get their ass to Mars? Do you really, I just read Recapture the Rapture from Jamie Wheel. He's like, do you really think all of us are going to get a ticket to Mars if the Earth goes down and there's a freaking global food crisis? You're not.
And it won't be for you and you and I. It'll be
Yeah.
for our kids. And by the way, fish is fucked, guys. It is. So that's going away. You know, they're finding what's happening with, like, you know, again, fish is just going to be not probably available for your children or your children's children. So.
If we don't change, if we don't
That's
change,
right. If we don't
exactly.
change.
So yeah, and we'll get into some things, some cool things that some bigger companies are doing to help with this, and we just want to bring awareness to you guys today, so you know what's going on. So
Well, and let me, I want to start because I
Sure.
called you because I was like, oh my gosh. So, and let's start off with, so I talked with 3 people in the past couple of weeks, strangers. Each one had a fear of meat. Okay. So one was, oh, I don't eat much red meat because my doctor says I need to watch my cholesterol. Okay. Number one, they're evaluating the cholesterol incorrectly, usually, and just overprescribing statins because they're looking at it in an old way, just like doctors in thyroid who are uninformed look at things from 1973 viewpoint, and they are not up to date on what tests or how to evaluate it. The same goes for a lipid panel. Okay, red meat does not cause cancer, or does not, you know, and is not directly related to coronary artery disease. It is the combination of what you eat. So yeah, if you eat like a high saturated fat diet and you're also eating a ton of sugar and high carb, yeah, you're probably going to have a problem with your lipid panel. But they don't make those distinctions in studies. And back in the day, the studies that did that were cherry picked. Ansel Keys has been blown out. He's the guy that was like saturated fat and meat causes heart disease, and that's been way debunked. The other person was like, well, I don't eat much red meat. And I said, oh, can I ask you, what was it? Was there a documentary or something you watched or read? And he goes, the China study. Now, I've debunked this with CJ Hunt. You can go back to my most recent episode with CJ Hunt and we go through this, but here's the essentials. There's an actual China study that they did with people in China because they wanted to get the most genetically similar people with like the most similar diets and things like that. It's an epidemiological study. The China study, the book, though, is not about the China study. And in the book, and this is what is so shady, so shady, and this is why you got to look into things closer or get an investigative journalist like CJ to call when I'm like, what's this about? The guy at the end of the book, he wrote a book about the China study saying, these are the conclusions I drew from the China study. But at the very end in the bottom, he basically says, well, it was an important milestone in my thinking, but standing alone, it doesn't prove diet causes disease. So basically he's saying the study that I'm drawing conclusions from doesn't even say the shit that I'm drawing the conclusions from. Right. And unless you knew that and looked closely, you read this book, you think it's based on this thing, and now you're like meets the now, and this is the way they did it. They took, you know, lab mice, which are already genetically geared to get cancer. These mice run around and eat grains in these silos, and there's some toxin in there. In the study, it's like already screwed. 65% of people have an issue with casein, and they like injected the mice with that plus this other. Gosh. And I mean, again, like when you start to look at what they did in the study, you're like, they're already be debunked. So again, taking these things, or again, forks over knives, a documentary that really pissed me off. There's so many vegan propaganda films. Let me just make one more point about Game Changers done by James Cameron, and I debunked this with CJ too. In it, they say that eating meat lowers testosterone, which is such a fucked idea. But let me tell you where they got this conclusion. They decided to do a 3-day study on teenage boys. And this is literally the study. They hooked some like electrical device up to their junk. Yep, their balls. Okay. And fed them vegan burritos for 3 days and then concluded that. Okay.
Oh my God.
You don't even need to know the details of that study to know how fucked that is, right? So then people watch Game Changers and they think somehow this is like a real scientific study of vegan burrito 3-day hook electrical shit up to the junk of
So
kids who have high
frustrating.
testosterone anyway.
Right.
This doesn't make any sense. So there's so much propaganda out there. I ran into someone in this grocery store a while back who was buying Beyond Meat, and it was a dude, the Beyond Burgers or whatever. And I went up to him. I said, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Are you a vegan?" He's like, "Trying to be." And I'm like, "Can I ask what encouraged you to become it?" And it's always a fucking vegan propaganda documentary.
I
So
know.
in those documentaries too, aside from the health aspect, which is bullshit, is also the environmental aspect. So Leonardo DiCaprio is going to tell you that,
Right.
meat
Right.
causes is
Right.
terrible for the environment. That is the CAFO. That is the industrial feedlots. You see it on the
Exactly.
side of the
Exactly.
freeway where it's all muddy. They're feeding these cows
Yeah.
antibiotics. It's a terrible kill system they're
Yeah.
mooing. That's shitty for the earth, the topsoil,
Yes.
and the environment. There are no
Well,
butterflies and earth around like there is at Regenerative Farm. So, and then
yeah.
I'll let you go on this, but so regenerative agriculture is really getting back to how people used to farm in the old days.
Yeah. So listen, the regenerative agriculture people are even more against the CAFOs and the
Yes,
conventional agriculture than the vegans. Because guess what? The vegan thing is not sustainable. I'm sorry. I
it's
love
not.
you all. If you feel like it's in line for you to only eat plants, I support that, but to think that everyone on the whole planet can
It's
do it is
elitist.
ignorant. I'm sorry, it
It's
just is.
elitist.
If you wanna
Yeah.
grow it in your backyard and source local or whatever, sure, go for it. But to think everyone can, and Rob Wolf puts this so plainly and simply. He did, say his book with Diana Rogers, A Sacred Cow, and they have a documentary on it as well, and he puts it so simply. He said, "If we take all of the land mass that exists on the planet and we put it onto the size of a credit card, 2/3 of that land is only suitable for grazing animals. So we want to support uh plants, growing plants and crops for the entire planet when only a third of our landmass can even support that. How is that sustainable or make any sense at all? And then on top of it, if your reason for being vegan is just to not kill animals, thousands and thousands of animals are killed
Large
in
animals.
conventional row cropping, which would have to be in place for everyone to be vegan.
You're
And we're
killing by
killing,
proxy if you eat soy. End of story. And you are killing
yeah,
large animals. And also, you are killing small things. So I don't care about the
right.
size. Your lettuce involves murder of something, whether they're
Oh,
using
yeah.
herbicides or not. And a great book on this is The Mindful Carnivore, Vegetarian's Hunt for Sustenance by Tovar Cerulli. He was a lifelong vegan, vegetarian, and then he got ill health, and then he decided, maybe I should look into like hunting my own meat. I don't want to kill by proxy. Let me experience this. I've interviewed him. He's very interesting. So, what I think would be great is, can you talk about if someone's like, all right, well, I get the treatment of the animals in a kill system and the fact that they're eating their native diet, which is grass, which is not happening at these industrial
Mhm.
feedlots, and that's all good because they're eating their DNA prescriptive diet, their primal blueprint. Tell us about the domino wonderful effects for the environment that happen on a regenerative farm.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Let me preface that by saying it takes up to 1,000 years to build up to 3 inches of topsoil. I want to repeat that. 1,000 years to rebuild 3 inches of topsoil. I want to give a few more stats and then I'll go into how regenerative works, how we're using the animals to do this. Um, the UN, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, said in 2014 that soil degradation was proceeding at such a rate that the world may only have 60 harvests left. Are you hearing that, people? Are we hearing that? The UN is saying 7 years ago that we only have 60 harvests left. 70% of the world's grasslands have been degraded. 70%. We are desertifying at alarming rates and everyone's just going along on their Netflix and whatever and like no, and it's like holy shit, people, wake the fuck up. Wake up. We
Yeah.
are Our whole planet is desertifying. So we are not going to be able to continue to have this lifestyle if we don't do something about it. And I want to say real quick before I get into regenerative ag, also if you watch Seaspiracy, I had a very interesting conversation yesterday. I wound up on a hike with a guy who works with Patagonia Patagonia Provisions. And I don't know if you guys know, but Patagonia is super involved in the regenerative movement. They actually have a regenerative organic certification now. They're very highly involved. They actually have
That's
a
really good
lot
to
of.
know, to support a company who's supporting that.
Oh yeah, they're big on it. I mean, their whole mission statement is to save Mother Earth, so they
So
are
fuck North
real.
Face. I'm going with Patagonia now.
Oh yeah, Patagonia is really, really involved. So if you go to patagoniaprovisions.com, I mean, they have food products you can buy, and they have all this information about how they're actually doing reef netting, which is an ancient selective fishing method from the native people up in, I believe in Alaska. So, and then they're involved. He was telling me all these cool things are involved in, like they're taking if you watch Seaspiracy, you understand that like the fishing nets are what is causing all the problem in the ocean. They're taking nets and they're making skateboard wheels out of them. And like, they're really, really involved. And so they have a whole, information thing on patagoniaprovisions.com where they talk about all their sourcing practices. So it's like a really quick and easy way to learn about, okay, what's going on with salmon, okay, what's going on with buffalo. By the way, they're hooked up with a company called Wild, shoot, I forgot the name of it. I'll look
Pastures?
it up. Wild something buffalo. Shoot, hang on. Wild Idea. Okay, I have a text from the guy, guys. I'm going to read it to you. Ready? This is really cool. It's a sourcing partner for Patagonia. He said they have 11,000 acres of private land with 24,000 acres of leased federal land on the Buffalo Gap National Grasslands. This is between Mount Rushmore and the Cheyenne River. They raise their buffalo as close to wild as possible. They don't put them in a trailer. They actually kill them and harvest them on and butcher them and everything out on the prairie. And even with a ceremony from the local tribes. This is what these guys are doing. I had some of their beef sticks, their buffalo or bison beef sticks yesterday, and they were so good. So anyway, that's a really great resource. I just had to hit a little thing on the fish side of things, because if you're like watch Seaspiracy and you're like, I'm never eating fish again, you might want to look into what Patagonia Provisions is doing, because they're helping with
And there's
that.
sustainable choices there too, just like,
Right.
and that is why we push the rep provision so much and why all that meat is in my
Right.
freezer. It's
Right.
also about these smaller farms and knowing the people, like you don't know who the hell like processed your meat when you go buy a steak at the local grocery store that's not grass fed. It's
Guys.
really nice to have the connection with the company and understand what they're doing. Sorry, get into the positives
Okay. Yeah.
for our
Well,
environment.
before I do, I'll say, like, open your eyes, go to YouTube and Google cattle eating candy. And you will see this. I'm sorry to say, he just seems like, kind of like a uneducated, like he doesn't realize the health impact of it. But this rancher is like, oh, they're like literally showing how they're like putting like the rainbow strip sour candy and all this freaking candy. They're mixing it in with all this grain and all this stuff. They have the the cattle eating already. He's like, the cattle love it. They just eat it up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
and then they get sick and you have to administer antibiotics, which is why this whole thing is fucked. Because
okay.
pastured animals don't have to have any antibiotics because they have an immune system because they're eating their native diet of grass.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's the health side of things. This is why I say eating regenerative animals is both selfish and selfless. It's selfish for you because of all the health benefits of it. It's selfless in a way because you're helping support the future of the planet. And let me explain how that works. Okay. So here's how they do it. If you look back to nature, of course, that's always the answer. If you look back to nature, there used to be millions of wild bison roaming. I'm going to use the United States as an example because that's home to me. So there used to be millions of wild bison roaming the plains. We were mostly grasslands. And what did they have? They had predators. And this is how the ecology of our country was beautifully balanced, because the bison would come through, they would trample and break down the grass, which would then break it up and help basically become like food for the soil, regenerate the soil. They would also urinate and leave their dung. And so they would basically just completely rebuild the topsoil in that area, eat some grass, but they couldn't stay that long because there were predators, right? So they would move along, and then the same thing would happen, and it would give that grass some time to regrow, and everything stayed great. Well, what happened is we came in and we're so smart, we'll make this better. And so we put all the cattle into fences. When we did that, what happened was the cattle will first of all, they're just refeeding on the same grass over and over. And the way Eric from Rep Provisions told me, he's like, there's all different varieties of grass, like all over the plains, and they have different types that they like more. And so those big giant areas of the grasses that they really like, not only will they keep eating it, but when it's like the young, tender baby grass, they really like that. And they eat it so much that they destroy the root systems. And then you get these big, huge, giant patches of ground also that become bare, and it blows away into the waterways, and we lose that topsoil. So what regenerative agriculture is doing is it's purely a management thing. And it's like, it's not even that hard. I've had some calls with Eric. He's like, honestly, if you are an investor and you're into this, and like, please talk to Eric. Or he's like,
Yes.
we can do it. We just honestly need money. We need more help. He's like, it is frustrating to see Impossible Meat go to $9 billion already, when, he's like, we're really trying to save the planet, honestly. And so here's what they do. So what they do is they have the cattle with electric fences, and they use drone technology, which is super cool that we're integrating technology in a way to support our modern lifestyle and needs while still honoring nature and mimicking nature. So they have their land is sectioned off into sections. They have the cattle in a section with the electric fences. They let's say they're done with that area, they move them along. They use the drone that has like a sensor radar technology that can see, it shows like in red, dark, or light how much the grass has regrown. If it's good, they know that they can just move the cattle back into that area. If not, they let it regrow more. It's really that simple. And then they also, in farming practices, they let the overgrowth happen in the middle, in between growing seasons, because it preserves so much water and it regenerates the soil with those dead, decaying plants. So if you watch a
We're talking about
documentary,
like all the ants, the butterflies. Like if you go to Rep Ranch, you hear all these sounds of nature. You go
right.
right across the street, Eric said, and it's like dead sounding because it's just this dead field. So
Mhm.
again, the processes of like the hoofs pounding it up, their dung, their urine, and then the beetles, right? And all of the
Right.
things
The
involved in an
butterflies and birds and
ecosystem, right?
bees. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, believe me, I live in an area of mountain lions. I'd like to shoot every single one of these fuckers. I don't want to ever see one again. However, shit, it's necessary
part of
for
nature.
them, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And if you guys have not seen the documentary Kiss the Ground, it is so good. It's so enjoyable to watch. It's just very informative on how this whole process works. And one thing I like to say also that Eric mentions is, he's like, I'm really passionate about also sharing the fact that we can't just leave the land unattended either. It's
That's right.
not just, you like, we are a part of nature, and our stewardship and caring for the land. He's like, we will get a lot of erosion and a lot of problems in the environment if we don't take care of the land also. So that's like our duty. So he's good about educating on that as well. By the way, Elle has an interview with Eric Perner.
I was just going to say that, and so do you. And
And
please
so do
Google
I.
that. Just Google Tara Garrison and Eric Perner, or Elle Russ and Eric Perner, and pull up those. They're two great interviews where we're going to hear everything you need to know in detail about this from the guy who owns and started Rep Provisions. And, just aside, like, obviously, we're sponsored by this company for a reason, though. I have, over all these years, I get a ton of people wanting me to rep or be an affiliate or something. And I don't, unless I really believe in the company, which why, like, I love Paleo Valley. I love Primal Kitchen, right? The things that and Rep Provisions is one of them. And let me just say this, guys, if you just want to try, just order their ground beef. First of all, you get 15% off, which is the most I think they even give, using Kick-Ass Life as a code. This is some of the best ground beef. I have shared it with chefs. They're like, holy shit. They just don't even, they're like, what is this? My parents, who are kind of skeptical, they get their special ground beef from somewhere. I had, when I was staying with them, shipped it out, and they several times were like, that is really, really good. Like, it's the best ground beef I've ever had. So just try it and support the company. Even if you're just like, let me get 5 pounds of ground beef from Rep and just try this. If anything, to support the company, but also because I think your mind's going to be blown, especially if you're a burger fan.
Yeah. Like, let me be clear. Like, we're not sponsored by Rep because we like want to get something. I will do anything to support them. I'm trying to get the word out. I'm trying to help educate.
That's why you're doing this great farm tour with them. Like, really, you're flying out to Oklahoma on your own dime for the purposes of sharing.
Like, this is an expense for me because I'm so passionate about it. I'm not making, I will do anything to support this movement, because we are on the verge of a global food crisis. If you think I'm just being an extremist, I'm not. Look into it, get educated. It is a big freaking deal. And how do we help? we just support the people who are already doing it, right? And it's
Yes.
very simple. And you, as a gift in return for your donation, you get some amazing, the best meat you've ever had in your life. They have Mongolista pork. Literally, I fried that sucker in my cast iron um, pan on my stove, and it fell apart and shredded with my fork. It was so good. And they also have, completely pastured chickens. These are chickens that actually run around.
Very hard to get, by the way. You
Very
can't
hard
get
to get.
pastured chicken at the grocery store. I want to let everyone know you get organic chicken or whatever, or grain-free. It doesn't matter. You're never going to get pastured chicken that are just eating off of the ground and the rocks
Yeah.
and all the junk, except for places like this that you have to order directly from.
Yep. Okay, last thing I'll say, I like help. Do you know how cheap it is to help? Listen, if you go to savory.global and become one of their supporting members for $20 a month, you can help regenerate 800 acres a year. $50 a month, I can't remember what it was. It was like way higher than that. $20 a month, like that is to me. Or if you just want to basically support Rep Provisions and get some meat, that's another way to support, but do
Right.
something, because the way I look at it is, I wrote a post about this the other day. I'm like, what is the legacy that we're leaving behind? Whether we are conscious of it or not, we are leaving a legacy behind on this planet. What do we want that legacy to be? Do we want to be the generation that screwed up the freaking planet for the future generations? Like, thanks, guys. Thanks for being selfish AF while you lived in abundance and didn't even think about us? So, like, it's very simple. It's very easy. You don't have to become a regenerative rancher. Unless you are a rancher and you're listening to this, please go to Savory because they have tons of information. But otherwise, just like it comes to your door. It's not that expensive. We have our 15% off code. It's Kickass Life with Rep Provisions or whichever regenerative ranch you want to support. I don't care. Just
Wow, yeah,
support
Wild
it.
Oak Pastures. Go to
Yeah.
eatwild.com. I think there's lots of options for regenerative farms and things on there. And then there's also Belcampo. So there's lots of different places. Paleo Valley also is they're part of Wild Pastures.
Primal Pastures is another
Primal
resource where you
Pastures.
can have stuff
Yes.
shipped right to your door, and they're hooked up with Paleo Valley. So yeah, there are a lot of resources. Again, if you want to just like have a quick education on this, you could watch Kiss the Ground. You could watch Sacred Cow from Rob Wolf and Diana Rogers, or read their book.
Or
There's
Google
another.
Rob Wolf and Sacred Cow and look up all of the interviews and just watch
Yeah,
interviews of them talking about it.
true.
If you don't want to buy the book, there are free ways to get this information.
Yeah, and there's another book that the guy from Patagonia Provisions recommended me that I want to read called Dirt to Soil. He said it is mind-blowing. It's a family's journey into regenerative agriculture, and they really get into all the nitty-gritty. So if you're a super geek about it like me, that's another suggestion. And again, Allen Savory, Allan Savory's TED Talk you can watch. And then there is another documentary coming out called To Which We Belong, which we're actually premiering at the event that we're doing at Rep Provisions Ranch. That's another one that you can watch out for, To Which We Belong. So, okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, guys. We'll link, of course, always we have the link on our website, kickasslifepodcast.com. We have links to Paleo Valley, Rep Provisions, Primal Kitchen. Obviously, you guys see we're trying to support these companies that are supporting the planet and the health of people at a higher level. So anyway, you can find discount codes and links on our website for all of those. All right. Thanks, guys.